Hello.
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 Um, we're back.
Great opening.
Yep.
Uh,
There's no gaming scientists. We are back.
show one of 2023. Hopefully, uh, the beginning of more consistency.
I feel like we say that a lot,
I know,
very
but
often. But
it can be aspirational until it's not.
yeah, because life gets in the way. Day jobs get in the way, and that's just life.
Yeah. So,
Um, so today we're gonna look at games we've been playing, and then quickly games that we are looking forward to in 2023. Some of which are very close. Most of these, I mean, all the ones I have on my list, if they are not
uh,
delayed, are in the first half of the year.
yeah, which doesn't entirely surprise me to be honest, because like
Probably
there's
not, but
usually not a ton of firm dates after April or
mid-year,
May
yeah.
most of the time.
Oh, I didn't. I just thought of one I didn't put on here. Okay, while we're
Add
talking,
it.
I'll add it. I'll add it. Okay, so what we've been playing, Connor. Do you want to go first or me? It does not matter.
I can go first. I mean, well, since I now have the PS5, I tore through Spider-Man Miles Morales and thoroughly enjoyed it. I would not want to pay full dollar for it because it felt like an extended DLC.
I
Do you know
think
how much it launched? Do you know how much it launched at? Because
I
I didn't
believe
look around for
40.
that. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's okay.
I think
Obviously it.
that's fair for like was it a 8 or 10 hour game if you do a completion run?
Oh no, I think it probably was around a 10-hour story, and it's probably something like 15 to 20 if you do all the side tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Might be 8-hour story, I don't know. But it was I did mostly just story, and I
Mm-hmm.
still completed it in like 3.5 days. And that's like
I
probably spending 5 or 6 hours a day because it was on a weekend.
Yeah.
So
So I 100% of that game. I would have to go and check
yeah, I
my
mean,
game log, but it was compared
honestly,
to the
like
first one, it's a lot easier to 100%, I feel.
sure. And I don't think I 100%ed the original, but they are well suited to like that format is well suited to the 100%ing in general.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest that like if Marvel wants to continue doing like reasonable uh superhero games like that, like action-based games anyway, I mean, not what's it called that you just finished playing, Midnight Suns,
Mhm.
um, which is probably relevant on this list to be honest with you. Uh,
Absolutely. I just forgot about it now.
so if they do like action-based games, I think they should probably look into like giving it to who made this one again? It's Insomniac.
Insomniac, yeah. So they
These games. So they should probably give Insomniac other opportunities because I think they have an understanding of how to deal with uh
absurd power.
the open world and the game world at this point that like they could probably do a pretty competent like Iron Man game. They could probably do a pretty competent
And it really
like
depends.
Wolverine style or X-Men game if they wanted
Well,
to.
they are making a Wolverine game, confirmed. Like they did announce it officially.
It's from Insomniac or just
From
from Marvel?
Insomniac.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that, but so
Yeah.
that's cool.
It
Cool.
depends on the game. I don't think Wolverine would fit an open world, in my personal opinion. I think for him, it. I think a stealth level based narrative would make more sense. Personally, for Wolverine, I don't
Yeah, they might be able to do open area style gameplay.
like.
Um,
Ooh, like a
because I
dis.
like I
Ooh, like a
or like
Dishonored hub
Hitman.
world, or yeah, or like a Hitman
Yeah,
hub
or like
world,
Hitman
hub level,
or
like
like
big
Hitman 2.
level, but it's still a level.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And there's still
I don't want to
there's
run around Canada as Wolverine,
there's mechanics like an open world without getting into the
the actual
like just map icon
mhm.
clearing tendency or tower activation. But no, so to be specific about Miles Morales is like it's basically the same as the original, but there are some extra powers, obvious inspirations in how they implemented them to what they did with God, I can't think of the name of the other games. Not what's
Infamous.
the games they made? Infamous. Yeah, I've never played them. I didn't.
That's
I don't.
Sucker Punch, but yes.
Oh, it is Sucker Punch. Okay, what else?
Hmm.
What else did Insomniac do again?
Ratchet and Clank during the PS2 era, and then PS3 era was Resistance series. So like
God, I
the
thought they did. I thought they did other open world games for some reason. Oh, anyway.
um no, I think Spider-Man was their first big open world. Ratchet and Clank has always been like hub world
Maybe they're
collectathon
just like
situation.
good. Maybe they're just generally good at what they do. I don't know.
I
It's kind of
mean,
like
they kind of are
Naughty
though.
Dog. Naughty Dog going from like Crash and whatnot to um The Last of Us is a little bit of a bizarre move, right?
Well, all three studios, so like Sucker Punch, Insomniac, Naughty Dog, I feel like had similar evolutions. Obviously, because they all worked closely with Sony, but all three of them started with like cartoony mascot type games. Then they did like a middle ground step towards like grittier, not grittier necessarily, but more humanoid, more serious games. So like Uncharted, Resistance, and Infamous. And then all three graduated to serious games, more cinematic. So Last of Us, Insomniac with Spider Man. They still do Ratchet and Clank, but Spider Man, and then Sucker Punch with Ghost of Tsushima. So like they all followed a pretty similar trajectory. Um,
Yeah.
but they also work
Yeah.
very closely with Sony, so it's like almost unlimited budget kind of vibe.
I think they also get access to some of the early tech when they do that kind of thing. But
Absolutely,
anyway,
I can't imagine they aren't consulted directly when they're developing hardware either.
which probably means it's probably why the games work so well.
Yeah, like Ratchet and Clank, and was one of the first PS5 only games, and
Yeah.
you can kind of tell. Not, I mean, the dimension hop thing it works, but it's not like crazy, crazy, crazy. But like you can tell it was built with the SSD in mind and everything like that. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
So
Spider-Man
yeah.
2 is 20. I think late 2023. They confirmed recently. We'll
Well,
see
that's
if that
wild to me. That's wild to me that that's already
2023. I'm
coming.
sorry, 2023. I mean, I can only imagine
It's probably been in
this
development for a long time, though.
exactly like
Yeah.
because I think Miles Morales was a smaller team of the
And
Spider-Man crew, so that another portion of the team could start pre-production and all that for the full sequel.
well, and I wouldn't be surprised if Miles Morales was originally just going to be a DLC package, and then they expanded it to a standalone release because it
Mm-hmm.
was big enough. And they're like, sure. Also, I imagine there's going to be a certain audience for wanting to try it out who may have not been just like immediately into just the standard Spider-Man story because, like, honestly, it doesn't change very much.
No, and
But Miles Morales is definitely something different.
I think timing wise with the PS5, they just decided let's just pack. Like
That too.
they're
Yeah, I
like,
can see
oh, our
that.
timeline is finishing by PS5 launch. Let's just launch it as a separate thing so that we can move a little bit of systems.
Yeah,
Because Spider Man's gonna sell. Like once that 2018 game came out and it was like, oh yeah, this is good. Like it was gonna sell. Like no doubt in our minds.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I recently beat Sekiro Shadow Die twice for the second time. This time on console. First time I beat it was on PC. And I'll be very quick. So, it's a great game still. It still holds up super well. And we were talking before recording that like it would be super cool if this combat was revisited and expanded into an open world format. Um,
Yeah. As I said, I don't think they need to make it as big as Elden Ring.
no, not at all. But like,
I mean, if they did and they did it well, like it would people would play it and it would have a huge following, of course. So don't get me
mhm,
wrong, but
yeah,
uh,
it's so good. It's so damn good. Like yes, it's hard. I'm not gonna pretend it's not. And there are months where I quit frustrated. In particular, an optional boss fight you can do with the owl. I mean, spoilers, I guess, but an optional fight you can do with the owl. There's one mandatory one, and then you can do an optional second fight with him. That one took me actually significantly longer than the final boss fight did, which is kind of crazy, but it's so good. It runs really well. Sometimes the jumping while you're locked onto an enemy is weird because you jump, you don't have much control of directions you jump. And the camera, FromSoft games always have an issue with the camera sometimes, especially in close quarters. Um,
Hmm.
but it's
Yeah.
it's such satisfying. Like you're not doing the dodging that you do in Elden Ring and Dark Souls. You're not playing defensively. You are going in hard, or you will not survive. And it's still so good. I still got that same wonderful feeling after beating each boss that I did in the original game. And you saw me play it a little bit when you were at my place. Like some prior to the original game, I beat them, first or second try compared to like 10th try. So like seeing that progression of like my skill as a gamer was also pretty great to see. But again, like I would recommend with the asterisks, this is hard. So, but it is something that you can get better at. It's not hard, impossibly hard. So, great game. If you haven't tried it, try it out. Connor, I know you will try it eventually. I think at some point.
Yeah, I did miss the recent sale, but I'm interested in trying it out on the PS5 when it
Mm-hmm.
goes on sale the next time.
Yeah, it's.
Um, Perhaps at least picking it up so I have it in my collection and then I can
Mm-hmm.
play it when I get time. I I kind of I think like a lot of what I do in a lot of games, and this is true of everything I play, is I kind of start panicking when I'm in those combat situations,
Oh,
and then I forget
absolutely.
how to do everything.
Yep.
So, because that happens to me in Elden Ring, but
Yeah, like when I first started playing in, uh, you remember those flashing like red kanji or those characters?
yeah,
I suddenly forgot whatever each one meant, so I was just like ah, and just dodged randomly. But again, the game is meant to be study the pattern, study the movement, even as subtle as the movement is. There is everything can be read. There's no unfairness, I guess, from the enemies. I mean, obviously, if you want to like nitpick, it's like, how can this dude fly 50 feet from where he was to me in a lunge? Sure, if you want to nitpick like that. But in actuality of
but
like,
that's like true of almost
exactly. So like, if you're gonna
every
nitpick there, then
fantasy.
we're not gonna have a meaningful conversation about the game. All right.
Um, yeah.
Next.
So I don't know. I technically I am gonna just mention this briefly, move on to the third one because I did start playing Outer Worlds, but I haven't actually returned back to it. Although you are playing it for our
Yes.
videos right now,
Plug.
so it's
Outer
worth kind
Worlds
of
series.
mentioning.
Check it out.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna go back to it eventually, but I haven't really returned to it enough. I'm gonna just comment that, like in general, that the second one's been announced, but there's like nothing known about it yet.
Yeah.
They're
And that.
probably going to announce something this year. I imagine during like whatever E3 event occurs in June, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they ever need to go back to the full convention center style of E3, but like
Absolutely not.
I would kind of like to see them do a more modest event that
I
is a
I
little
I
more.
I like the state of play and direct model.
Yeah, I do. I do.
I like just like here's the stuff.
I think it depends on what's being announced, I guess. I appreciate the I just think even before the video stuff started going out, the actual events turned into um just really kind of lazy video slide decks.
Yes, so
Whereas
that screams.
previously there was like a reason, there was like a good point to have the live events. There was a good point to have all the booths. But over time, like it turned into more and more was about the biggest studios and just series of trailers. So I can, if that's all it's going to be, then yeah, I'd prefer just the
Hmm.
the
So
live stuff. But
yeah, I
in any
think,
case,
and I'll just say this piece to me. I think that's very reminiscent of like when I started really diving into like keeping up with games in terms of like just not running into a game I saw at the store and wanting it, actually like following game news and whatnot. I think that's very a part of like early 2000s gaming discussions was like, hey, here are these specs, here are these like things. It felt like investor meetings sometimes, the E3
that's
with slide decks and
that that
whatnot.
is that is kind of true.
Yeah, whereas like now, if you want to
Well,
know the specs of these machines, you can look it up. I think,
and also like the PS the PS5 is remarkably better than the PlayStation 4,
yeah, like the
but
PlayStation 4 was old hardware when it launched.
the
So like,
the difference is like more notable for me. Like yes, the environments do look nicer technically, but the difference for me is more just overall performance,
yeah, how it feels.
which is a lot less stunning than previous generations where you would jump from like you went from the into the 3D era, like that was such a monumental jump,
Mm-hmm.
and then going from those consoles, so the 64 and the PS1 into the GameCube and the PS2, and then
Yeah.
of course Xbox, which like only launched then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you and then from there to the 360 and PS3 and all that. So like those jumps were noticeable,
Yeah.
dramatic. PS3, PS4 to PS5 is there are definitely performance improvements, and the graphics, like if you go back and look at them from early PS3 and even early like PS4 games, I'm sure you'll notice significant differences in how the game looks. But the bigger thing is the performance, and it's not as impressive for a consumer. Like the jumps aren't nearly as monumental anymore.
For like a mainstream consumer, but I do think gaming space has more where like it has become more mainstream, but the average consumer also knows more, if that makes sense at the same time. But I think right now
Yeah.
there's a good middle ground of like, hey, let's Miles Morales has a fidelity mode, a performance mode, like a fidelity performance mode. I think that's a good middle ground for now. Now that
Hmm.
the big reason that's even become a thing is like PC gaming has become more mainstream, and PC
Hmm.
gaming has always been, about like, let me tweak my settings so I can get, 60 frames versus 30, or, if you're playing shooters at a multiplayer competitive level, 144 even, But point being, I like seeing that setting tweaking bleeding in, even if it's just a simple like tweaking between fidelity and performance. Like that's a good first step at least. For me, like going forward, I think if you want to make graphically more immersive, I don't want to focus on I'd rather focus more on like the smaller things, so like hair physics. Um if you're if you have durability mechanics in your game for armor, why not make that visually like obvious on your character? So the obvious example is, the Arkham games. As you continue through the Arkham games, Batman's suit noticeably gets like more destroyed essentially. Why not have that as an actual visual representation of, in some games, a real mechanic? You know, armor durability in a lot of looter shooters or things like that. That I would love to see. Or as you fight, in an open world and you don't rest, you get visibly dirtier. That stuff would be, again, not immediately apparent compared to like just a graphical update, but for me personally, it would be so much more like immersive compared to just make it look more real. Like I think there's a point where we don't need to focus on making it more real. That's
Yeah,
just my 2 cents.
yeah, yeah. No. Anyway, to get back on the main road, um, just yeah, Outer Worlds. It was interesting. I'm gonna return to it more. I'm hoping that Obsidian has enough of a budget in the sequel.
I
Which
mean,
I think the first
they're
one was. I think the first one was made before they were acquired by Microsoft, or at least it was
yeah.
mostly developed
So
before they were acquired.
it would be called like double A, I guess.
Yeah, so I think they'll have a
So,
little funding behind them this time,
hmm
which and obviously it's had more time to develop. I think.
which
Um,
I wonder how big that studio is because they have so many like projects.
yeah, they also have that other game. What like of is it
Avowed,
Avowed?
yeah, like their Pillars
Yeah,
of Eternity, Skyrim kind of vibe thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which looks interesting, but there's
Mhm.
very little known about that except for a tech like
A trailer,
a
like a
reveal
reveal trail.
trailer.
Yeah,
But anyway,
I'm gonna blast through my other 2 games because I'm not that far into them. I'm been
yeah,
playing
and
Lost Judgment, which is the sequel to Judgment, a Yakuza universe spin-off that you play as a lawyer turned private detective in Japan in what I think is a fictional city called Yokohama. This one's in Ijincho, and it's it's your classic neo noir. Honestly, a lot of the investigation is surface level, not super like detailed or great, and it uses the like brawler style combat of the Yakuza games, which I am not too big a fan of. So I've been playing it kind of just um, on easy mode. I'll be honest. Hate me if you will. I'm more about the story than I'm about brawler combat. I never was into the brawler combat of Yakuza. But it's fun. It has that zaniness, weirdness that Yakuza is known for. Well, but also having that crazy emotional slash serious dramatic story. And I'm enjoying it. I'm only in the first like I want to say 5 or 6 hours. So I'll probably revisit to talk about it more as I get further. And then the other game I'm playing, which I'm about 20 hours into, is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which I am clicking with a lot more than I did Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I played a large part of that one, but never finished. I did not like the uh, gotcha kind of mechanic to the second one, which is how you get most of your like abilities, at least for the main character. This one has just a much more interesting world to me, and I never disliked the combat, so I was always down for the combat. It was such a drag to try to get all those abilities I wanted to get. Um, but I will say I am reaching a weird point where I find myself going through a lot of the world very easily. Like general mob enemies are very easy to take down. But once I get to the actual like bosses, it's way harder than it has to be. And I feel like part of that reason is the healers don't really, the healer AI, if you're not controlling them directly, is not good. And part of me is like, I can just switch to using doing the healer AI healing myself.
can you do any kind of like pausing combat situation to be more
Uh,
strategic?
no, you can. There's no like, I guess pause all like I don't know Divinity has or does Divinity
Or
have that? What am I thinking
no,
of?
what's it called? The other game, BioWare game. I can't. Dragon Age.
Yeah, you can't just like hit pause and everything freezes. No, but
Or the other BioWare game, Mass Effect.
yeah,
It does it also
you
for.
can't do that. You can order like generic tactics like hey, focus on one thing, follow the leader, whatever the case is, but and there's 6 party members that you can switch between, so it's like a lot to switch between. And maybe I'm just getting overwhelmed a little bit. Um if I continue to struggle with this, maybe it's just I need to grind more, which is a JRPG thing, don't get me wrong. But I do wonder also again because time is a variable in life, if there would be like a way I can turn down some sort of difficulty if I continue to have the issue, because I don't mind playing the healer class, but if it's like every boss I have to go switch to a healer, even though I feel like AI should be able to handle that well, I don't know. But it's fun so far. I enjoy it. It's a very
I,
interesting world. It's very anime in terms of its storytelling. So that's if that's a downer for you, then you probably won't enjoy it. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So I mean, you mentioned AI, so it'll be an interesting comment. A game I've been playing a lot is Elden Ring, and yesterday, I feel better today, but yesterday I wasn't feeling great. I think I ate something rough, so I just was laying down and watching a video of a guy who made a video series playing the game. Like he's played a lot of Souls games apparently, but I found it because I was looking things up for Elden Ring,
is it
and
Vadi?
he played through. No, I've seen that one, but it's
Okay.
I think it's RT Prime or something. Anyway,
Okay. Yeah.
but he had a summon that like almost every boss, he managed to accidentally get the Lost Ancestor summon like pretty early, and then he's
Mm.
using it for most of the game. And this thing would try to go into melee in many contexts when like, no, your advantage is that you have that bow. You need to
Uh.
stand at the edge of the arena and fire the bow, but like the AI is too stupid for that,
Mm-hmm.
so it just keeps going in and then dying
That's
almost
actually
instantly.
that's another thing. Like circling back to like future gaming, AI would be something I would love to be like more or to improve rather, not more better
Yeah,
to
a little
improve.
more robust, a little more robust perhaps. Now, or like first thing like Elden Ring with those summons, it's like it would be nice if you had some
Modicum of
ability
control over the
to
summons.
control and to determine to give them some priority, at least a priority thing, like aggressive, defensive,
Mm-hmm.
ranged, melee kind of thing, if they have the option anyway. Because some of them I think only have melee, some only have ranged. But I just thought it was funny. It was also I'm gonna just recount this guy's videos, but because I just did it on accident because
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about. Do you remember the treasure chest that transports you to the Stelia crystal mine in
Yes.
Caelid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I forgot where that was, and it happened to me, and I was like, "Oh no, I am not ready for this area." And then he's starting the game and goes like, "Ah, wants me to go that way." Well, I just want to explore around, so he goes to the Dragonburnt ruins, opens the chest, and I'm like, "No!" Just this like naked guy with a club running through, getting like attacked by the little pest enemies, and
Mm-hmm.
then he's in Caelid with nothing. Um, Tries to take on the tower, the Caelid Tower, with nothing,
Mm-hmm.
including the Godskin Apostle that's in at
Right.
the bottom of the tower. But no, it's I've been playing it again and thoroughly enjoying it. Still struggling a little bit with like when the combat gets a little like when I can't cheese the combat a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's really cheesing in that game because like all of the elements are in the game for a reason, but it's like I'm not playing it straight up serious, like trying to get in close and use the shields and get the parries correct and all that kind of stuff. I am using magic and found the spiked castus or cestus, I don't know how it's pronounced, weapons and bought them and just been using it for a while because they actually did a patch. And so in the game that this guy was playing, if he used them, they wouldn't have been as good. Um, I think I texted you about that. They when they
Yeah.
patched it, they actually improved a lot of the fist weapons.
Yeah. I
So
remember. I
are
remember seeing the
more
texture.
yeah, they're more viable as weapons. And I didn't know that. So I think if I had played with them previously, it wouldn't have been that good. But they're a lot faster now.
Yeah. And
So when you use them, quote unquote, two handed, so you equip both,
mm,
um, it's a pretty fast, like rapid punch maneuver. And because the spiked ones apply bleeding, it's not very high level bleeding, but it's still bleeding.
which I think
Um,
was my favorite
if you can,
class in Diablo was the monk.
yeah, if you can get in effectively, yeah, I think you could probably build like a pretty interesting like holy monk
Yeah.
in Elden Ring with that method. Like really light armor
Mm-hmm.
and high dexterity, high
High dexterity, high faith.
it would be high dexterity, high faith, and high.
Intelligence.
You would need something else. I think. I think you'd need the. Does faith increase your FP, or what increases your FP? Is that mind?
Mind or intelligence, one of the two.
You would probably want to increase your FP, and then, um, yeah,
Yeah.
eventually. I mean, I'm kind of going all over the place a little too
Mhm.
much in
I
my gameplay, but
yeah.
because at first I was just trying to be like a knight, and then
Uh
I changed my mind. But what
but
were you
that's
saying?
no, I do want to revisit it again eventually, but it was around the a month from now last year. That game took was all I was playing, obsessed with it. So I need, I think, a longer break before I dive in with a new
Yeah,
playthrough. But
I
it's great.
there there are whole sections of the game that I still haven't seen.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I never went
but
through like the millennia, like the hard, there quotes the hardest boss in the game section. I never went through that the first time I played. Um, because I did start feeling a little bit of burnout in the game. Um, and that's normal with
mm,
such a huge game like this, that
yeah,
you do get tired, or at least I do. I can't speak for everyone else, but um, it's great. I want for God of War. I just want to briefly mention it because like so much praise is heaped on this game that I don't think we're gonna add much to the discourse. To be
no,
honest,
yeah,
um, it was great. I loved it probably more than 2018, mostly because and Jacob Geller makes a very good point of this. I think in his discussion on MinMax show, it feels more like I'm reading an epic story with subplots, overarching themes. Like it feels more like a full story in like a traditional classic sense than what I think 2018's was more about. Like felt more like a character story journey than this one did. I'm not sure if that came through how I intended it to sound, but um whenever
uh, yeah, no, it also felt a lot like you're there observing a story unfolding around you. Like Kratos is not the main character, really.
no.
He's not the focal point of what's occurring. This is a story unfolding for characters. Now he's obviously playing a pretty significant role in how things occur, but like you're coming in after a lot of things have occurred and kind of
Playing catch
seeing
up.
everything kind of
Yeah.
come to a head, so to
Mhm.
speak. But
It's all these threads culminating into this final
yeah,
arc. Which
yeah,
isn't bad. But I think I enjoyed that more because Kratos up until 2018 has not been a very compelling character. I don't think that's a hot take to make. Um,
no,
and
he was
the
kind of one dimensional for a
one
long time.
dimensional, just angry man, rightfully so in the first game, but then 2 and 3 just continued anger. Um, and thinking back on it, this entire series is just about bad fathers. Um, or
Well, yeah,
very flawed
yeah.
fathers. But I do think this game improved on a lot of what the 2018 game did well. I appreciate different choices of shields, though I still use the parry one the most. The spear is a fantastic weapon. Like our friend Davey said, the spear. I said I wasn't too hot on the spear after getting it, but then when I actually like spent time with it, it actually is a really good weapon and probably my favorite. I use the blades the least, to be honest. I think the
Yeah, I
blades.
think in both games they were a little hard for me to use. Now, I haven't played on the higher difficulties, right? But
Mm,
I imagine on the higher difficulties there can be some advantage to understanding the elemental effects
yeah,
and how to and
and
switching
that's
between them a little bit.
and that's something that I did not dive into a lot in the 2018 one, and in this one too. I did not really use the runic attacks or anything like that. I was much more focused on just the more surface level combat in terms of
By runic attack, you mean
like
the modification, the heavy attacks and stuff.
like the L1 and then you hit
Oh,
heavy
okay.
or something like that.
Because I was
Those.
thinking of the ones that I think it's circle. I don't think I had it. I don't think I had that one remapped. I remapped the combat. Although maybe if I play again, I'll try it with
Yeah,
the
it's
triggers.
like each weapon has two runic attacks that are on cooldown. You
Yeah,
know, that's what I mean.
yeah,
Not the L1 circle one. That's just no matter what weapon you
yeah,
have. But
yeah. I like the I like the I can't think of what they're called right now. The weapon things that you can equip. Like one of them is you have like the bolus thing you throw out that like applies Bifrost and
I want to say it's
um
artifacts, or are they artifacts?
no, I think
I know
that's
what
an
you're talking
upgrade.
about.
I think that's an upgrade on your companions or the artifacts. But yeah, so um
I
I
know what you're talking about
anyway.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um.
It's those are really nice because they add a certain element to some of the combat
mhm.
situations. Although granted, quite honestly, like once I got that bolus one, it's like it for me and the way I played, like there was almost no better one that I found.
Yeah.
So upgrading it just to get three of them just made sense. And
Mm.
once you apply the Bifrost, it's like it also feels really good to use Bifrost when you have all these enemies constantly doing it to you by
Yeah.
like midway to end game that you constantly run into them. And it's like that Bifrost those Bifrost attacks can be brutal.
Yeah. Um.
So
I will say, I think the game ends on narratively. I think, me personally, this is a good ending point for this franchise for a while. I think they should take a break, like they did with God of War. I think technically Ascension, but um, I think they should take a break. I think Kratos and Atreus have good ending points to each of their journeys. I'd much like I said with Naughty Dog, I would love to see them both do a different IP for their
well
next game.
isn't it's that's from Santa Monica, right?
Santa Monica, yeah. So
Aren't they? They're already working on other things, right? So they have something in progress that hasn't been announced.
maybe then, and I could. Oh yeah, because I think Alana Pierce says she's writing something, but she's not
Yeah,
doing. She wasn't doing Ragnarok, so it's a different project.
yeah,
Yeah. I hope. I mean, I would love both studios to lean into sci-fi. I think with their
yeah.
technical
I think we're
capability, it would be
I
cool to
think
see.
I think we're getting into the sci-fi era a little bit
I'm down. Like,
again.
I'll be
So
honest, I'm
I
really
mean,
down.
it's been obviously it's always like been here to some extent in video games, but you had a run there of like zombie game or zombie things being a big media thing, and
I don't think sci-fi has really hit like that triple A
well,
mainstream yet.
Mass Effect, but it's
It's
been
been a
years
long
though
yeah, it's
since,
been so long since Mass Effect.
and also
That's
it's
the
like
only thing I can
it
think of,
was.
really honestly.
I would almost like to see a studio that doesn't try to sell you on creating your own world, but just tells a really good space opera story. Like,
Absolutely.
oh, just like it doesn't. I don't care if it's my story. I'll play
Yeah.
it.
You know,
Make it like
and honestly,
good RPG elements is one thing. Like, don't get me wrong, but like the idea that you're driving the narrative of the story, like I don't care. Arc branching
there
storylines,
is a space for that.
branching.
Don't get me wrong, but like just tell me a good sci-fi story. Just tell me a good space opera story.
Well, I actually think that part of why it does create an issue is within the same game is fine, but it's with Mass Effect, it created a bit of problem carrying it over from one to the next.
Hmm.
So, but
Honestly, a great
yeah,
space opera game that recently came out, and I talked about it before, is Guardians of the Galaxy from last year or the year before.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
take the
sure.
Marvel out of that. That was just a good space opera game, to be honest with
Which I
you.
think is probably how that comic started. It kind of just
Like
happened
a
to be.
goofy ragtag space opera, but that was a well told space opera. I went to different planets and did things, and I cared what happened to those characters. Like
Yeah, I did comment.
that game just suffered from bad marketing and unfortunate, not unfortunate, but unavoidable comparisons to like the MCU versions of those characters. But like, if you actually
Yeah,
played those games, you know that game, it was very obvious they knew what they were doing and they had great care in the writing and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I do hear a little
I
buzzing on your side. I'm not sure what that is.
um oh, can't reach.
Okay, I think it's gone now, but
I don't know if it was the fan or not, but my little, my sad little snowball
mm-hmm.
doesn't, I doesn't work very well. I need to replace it eventually. It's also just an unwieldy microphone, to be honest. I need
Mm-hmm.
something a little less bulbous.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that took for way longer than I thought, but let's go through this. I think we can stream through these pretty quickly though, just because like
We have a
none
lot
of
of
these are.
repeats.
Yeah, we have repeats and we
All
have
right. So let's go down our list of not repeats. Though I will
sure.
say the only one that wouldn't repeat for me from your list is A Space for the Unbound. So I'll just go through my first. So Fire Emblem Engage. We're going into what we're looking forward to. So
Yeah. Just
uh
to change gears a little bit. This is almost the kind of thing where like if we get to a point where we're doing this regularly, we almost need a producer to
mm,
guide us.
oh
But
absolutely. But we're not there yet.
yeah, we're not
Um
there yet.
Fire Emblem Engage. I love Fire Emblem. It's been 3 or 4 years since the last one, Three Houses. I can't remember when. I'm cautiously looking forward to this, only because this the Fire Emblem games have started leaning more into anime tropes, at least visually and whatnot. I am a fiend that have only played since the Game Boy Advance one. Moving forward, so I'm not what you would call like a OG fan, I guess is how I'm gonna phrase it. But
Hmm.
I do love that combat, and
Well,
graphically, I think it looks fine. The environments are leave to be desired in terms of the hub world you eventually walk around and once the maps are zoomed in and everything. But Fire Emblem combat doesn't really need much to, you know, work on. It's solid. It always has been solid. I'll be interested to see what this I guess summoning mechanic is gonna work out like. I do worry like these shots right now in the video version are rough of the hub world. Um, but you know, it's
are you recording video at the same time?
yeah, I have
Do you want
I
to share that? I don't know if you
um
can share it and get it on OBS properly or not. Sorry,
I will try.
as we do shop, we do shop work.
Mhm. Um but yeah, that's what it is. Fire Emblem it has not changed very much. Though I did like the like hub world in Three Houses a lot actually, but I know it's not everyone's
Yeah.
cup of tea. Um, if I don't get it on launch, it's probably going to be like a wait for a sale, which will be like 3 years from now, probably, because that's how
Oh,
Nintendo
I didn't
sales
realize it
work.
only comes out in 5 days.
Yeah. Yep. um.
So
So I'm
because there's
waiting on
not really
reviews.
anything, because there's not anything coming out this month, I might pick it up. It's
It's between that or Dead Space. Honestly, is really what I'm bouncing between because the Dead Space remake is also out this week.
yeah, no, you know
Yeah.
how I feel about those survival horror
I
games.
mean,
So
that might be one worth doing a series on. TBH.
yeah, it would because I'd be fine watching it. I just
Uh
don't know
huh.
that I'd be comfortable playing it.
All right, let's move
Um,
on to yours. A Space for the Unbound. What's this about, Connor?
this was just an interesting little one that I saw on a list that intrigued me. So I don't really know anything about it, to be honest. But it's a little uh pixel RPG that we should be showing clips from. It looks like an interesting,
It looks pretty as
it
hell.
looks kind of yeah, it looks kind of like a real what am I don't know what the like genre is called. I think there might be an actual name to it, but it's like an anime style that is like kind of a semi realistic world. But there are fantasy and or sci-fi elements more accurately, I
So,
think.
slice of
Um,
life adventure game is what they're calling it. I'm down.
okay, yeah, it looks interesting.
Setting
So
in
I thought it'd be,
Indonesia, like, yeah,
I
that
thought it looked
alone is
interesting, and I
interesting.
would well, yeah, because there's not a ton of that. That's not really demonstrated. I mean, because the powerhouses of the industry are like the United
Japan
States,
and the United States,
Japan, Europe.
and then you have some scattered, yeah, Europe and whatnot. Oh yeah,
But
this looks dope. So far, this is all cutscenes. I don't know what you would actually be doing. I mean, it could be
yeah,
just your.
I'd want to learn a little more about it, but it looked
Mm,
interesting, so I put it on
yeah.
there.
Okay.
So
That was a trailer for 2020. So who knows
yeah,
what
I don't know if
stage
there's
it's
been
in?
I don't know if there's been a lot of announcement on it. It does have I think it has an actual release date now though.
All
I
right.
I saw it on the on Game Informer's list.
Okay.
So
Um.
um
Then let's go to Sea of Stars, and then we'll go
yeah.
to the shared ones we have, which Sea of Stars should be one, honestly, because Chrono Trigger basically vibes.
Yeah, that's where I've seen this game come up from time to time in the last year or two, and every time it's like, oh, I'd really be interested in that one. But
Is this
I then forget it.
kickstarted
I then
or
forget it exists
GoFunded?
for a while. I don't know.
Let
Then I
me.
forget it exists for a while until I'm looking at another list again. But yeah, it's has, there the composer from, I guess, at least the is it the first Xenoblade Chronicles, and then Chrono Trigger, and I think Chrono Cross. The latter of which I've never played, but I really enjoyed Chrono Trigger a long time ago. I always mean to return to it actually, but
Oh man,
if they do that kind of combat system with some modern improvements,
God,
I
this
think it'd be
pixel
really,
art is gorgeous.
yeah, it looks really nice. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I mean, I'm very likely to pick this up. It's probably a Switch game for me. Honestly, it feels like the kind
Um,
of game that would work perfectly on that format.
yeah, I mean that's what I picked up Chain Echoes on, which was a recent
Yeah, it looks so much like Chrono Trigger, the overworld and everything.
yeah, um man, I'm drawing a blank. Chain Echoes is also another like Chrono Trigger throwback kind of vibe. I
Hmm.
haven't dived into it yet. I am waiting to finish Plague Tale and Lost Judgment before I dive into that. Or maybe I'll just wait until I finish Xenoblade. So I only have one
Yeah,
JRPG going at a time.
yeah. I'm
Um,
curious to see how this game goes because, like, honestly, we were talking about the scale of Elden Ring. I think Chrono Trigger, because I didn't get really into like the Final Fantasy series growing up. Partially, I just didn't have the systems that they were
mhm.
on growing up until they started releasing some of them for the Game Boy Advance later on, and then obviously now a lot of them are on the Switch and whatnot, and they've been released
Mhm.
on Steam and everything. For a long time, they were like Sony exclusives.
Right.
Um, so Chrono Trigger though came to the DS, and like it was one of the first games that I played that was like gave me some sense of how much scale a game could have
Right.
in its plot.
Yeah.
So anyway,
One game that I forgot to add on this list, but I'm gonna switch gears real quick. That's just me, probably.
hmm
Final Fantasy 16. I can't believe I didn't list
yeah,
this.
uh,
Not
yeah. I
much
mean,
needs to be
I'm
said for me as a big Final Fantasy fan. I will try out every mainline Final Fantasy that comes out.
yeah,
Um, I know 15 has a pretty rough reputation and development cycle. To see this one just kind of progress seemingly smoothly is always a big sign. I do know the combat very much looks like Devil May Cry or other like character action RPGs is a big turnoff for
yeah.
some.
I was gonna say it looks very, very different to
Um, yeah,
most of it.
absolutely.
It also, I maybe this will change by the time they get closer to actual release, but all of the scenes that are probably not exactly what combat looks like, but look kind of like they're captured from some kind of what combat might be like shots here.
Hmm.
It looks like there may not be as much of a party based system going on if I
So
unless that's
this trailer, you do see some party members eventually show
okay.
up. Like they show
Okay.
them in a start of a battle cutscene situation. So I do think like party members are a thing. I just think you only have
Right.
full control of one character. So like I think right here is where you see the first glimpse of a party.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Um, but
Yeah,
you just
and
don't
they're over
have
there.
direct
They're over
control.
there. They're over there doing their thing.
Yeah, you might have like
Um,
commands, but I think that's about it. Is my guess.
yeah.
We don't actually
I'm
have like a deep dive into the mechanics. I'm curious to see if like this will become like a IGN first or a Game Informer cover story where we dive deeper into actual mechanics of the games.
yeah, and I don't know when this is. Does this have a release date, or is it actually supposed to be this
Yes,
year?
June 23rd. It's
Okay,
all I know is it's
probably one.
after summer
This is
break
probably
starts for me.
one that we could
So
make for a July game.
yes,
Because I'm intrigued, and if it comes out June 23rd, that would be a good time to pick it up, play it for a few weeks, and then discuss it in the
yeah,
middle of
it's
July.
definitely not a series because I will not have the like self control to pace it as a
Oh
series.
no, no,
Absolutely not.
no.
Let's
Um,
see. This is the release date trailer. Let's see. So June 22nd. I'll say I was not that far off. Yeah, so
yeah.
that's like a
So
couple weeks after
okay,
summer break starts for me, and I'm like, hell yeah, let's do this.
I'm intrigued enough by what I see from it. I'm not like a huge Final Fantasy fan
Mm-hmm.
overall. I did like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance when I was younger,
Right.
but that was partially because that was what was available on the platforms I had.
Yeah.
Um, so I like some of the mechanics and the elements of the different stories, but
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah. So I'm intrigued. So I'll see. I'll wait to feel I have a full opinion or
Okay,
anything until I
so
see more.
I'm
But
going to go based on what I think the release order is. Atomic
okay.
Heart, which we're both interested in. Um, I'm cautiously optimistic. It sounds like from what I read of a IGN article that it actually does play well in surprising ways, but
Hmm.
it just looks
So they've had
interesting and weird. They had some
yeah.
hands-on experience with it.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, this is coming to Game Pass, which makes me tempted to just try it there. But I'm
Is it?
thinking
Okay.
it. Yeah, I'm thinking it might play better on the PS5, so I'm probably gonna look into getting it there. Um,
Um
Even though it's on Game Pass, just because my it may not play as well on my computer.
yeah.
But I could always try it, and if I
Oh, if it's Game
absolutely hate
Pass,
it,
I'll definitely
but
try it. Yeah. If it's Game Pass, I'll definitely try
yeah.
it. Um, you know, this game has been thought to be just glorified tech demos, but it's actually coming out. Post World War II Russia, I want to say. Is it
It's an
Russia?
alternative. It's an alternative USSR that like
Okay.
developed some sort of like
Automatons, it looks like.
robotics technology and stuff. Like so, it's very similar in style to the alternative future or alternative history that Fallout has, but the actual combat feels closer to um, like I don't know a Metro or a um, Dishonored or something. Like it's more active
Wolfenstein.
combat.
Wolfenstein. Also Wolfenstein.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
or Bioshock, I guess, and that's the
Mhm.
game I couldn't think of in my head. A lot of people are comparing. It almost looks like a mashup of like Bioshock and Fallout with and I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm hoping it has some pretty robust customization options and gameplay styles, and it looks like
Mhm.
it does from the videos. But and I don't know if it's fully open world or if it's just like open areas or whatever. But it kind of looks open world.
I wouldn't
So
mind like a Bioshock, 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 Bioshock type world where you do get funneled through distinct levels, but the levels are open enough that you can explore them a little bit.
hmm
That's my hope. Again, I'm not big on everything being an open world game anymore, at least. But yeah, Atomic Heart.
yeah,
I think that's a February one, right?
I believe so. You can see where it comes out on Game Pass.
February 21st. Okay, so that could be my February
Yeah.
game for this year, and on Game Pass, so that'll be easy to track. Okay, I don't know which is coming out first, so I'm gonna go to RE4 Remake,
Cool.
24th.
Yep.
Not much needs to be said on why we are looking forward to this. I'm a
Yeah.
huge
I'm
Resident Evil
I'm
fan.
kind of one. Yeah.
I doubt we'll do a series because both of us will be playing it. Um, but we will probably have long discussions on it. We might do. I wouldn't be opposed to doing like release week first impressions, first hour gameplay as just a one off. But you know, one of
Yeah,
the
I'd be interested to see how they do that opening village and how they change it.
exactly. Yep. This game is
So,
iconic. Yes, I played the first one, the OG one in late 2021, and it still holds up. But I'm very curious, very
yeah.
excited to see how they modernize it, especially with RE2's camera work, moving and shooting.
Yeah.
Um,
And like I'm just for one of the things that makes that game really hard. It does still hold up technically in gameplay, but one of the things that does make it hard to return to is just how useless Ashley is.
yeah, and
Um, I'm hoping they've really done something to adjust that a little bit because
so
that is such an old thing from games that
yeah, like
a
the
lot less
yeah,
do now. The like chaperone and
uh-huh,
you just have to
defender
like
chaperone, yeah,
you're constantly concerned about them getting like the smallest hair touched, and
yep,
it just makes the whole experience like a little bit more frustrating than it needs to be.
yeah. I saw on discussions earlier today. I was reading the Resident Evil subreddit. Some people were like, "Well, maybe make her sections like the House Beneviento section of Village, where like there is danger, but it's not from combat. It's from make it puzzle based only, and the danger is more hiding than it is like she can't fight. And
Mm,
then for the escorts, I don't know. I don't think I have as good of a. I think she should just be more competent. That's really all it is. Like, yeah, she can still
yeah,
get killed if you get overwhelmed, but don't make it so you have to, just stick her in a trash can and then go mow down everyone else. Have her be competent still. Just you can have her be competent, but still be something you need to keep watch of. You know.
yeah,
Yeah, and I wonder also because I don't know how they're moving forward. Like, are these remakes now a new canon that 7 and 8 tie into, or
right.
like that's what I'm wondering? Because like,
That seems to be part of the point of the remakes,
yeah, because I'll be
which makes
honest,
me wonder if they're gonna do five or not.
5 and 6 that begs the question: Are five
Yeah,
and six going to be remade, or
which
are
weren't
are
that.
those recent enough that we just consider them canon as is, and that we just carry over the differences from 1 through 4's
Hmm.
remakes? Um, but yeah, that's a March game. We're excited.
Hmm.
We'll definitely do some kind of video on it if it's not just if even if it's just like first hour. Um,
Hmm.
last next second to last one, Star Wars. Hello.
Yeah,
Uh, so I liked Fallen Order a lot. It was not a perfect game. There was definitely some polish that needed to be done in terms of almost every aspect. Uh, combat, traversal, everything felt a little like slightly off, but not enough for me to not enjoy it. I think it's probably my favorite Star Wars game in a long time compared to like probably KOTOR, right? And I'll be interested to see how because they have a lot of room to play. It's post Order 66, but it's pre you know Episode 4, so and that's the beauty of I guess Star Wars is you have this big playground for in between stories, and it doesn't have
yeah,
to
and I
be
think
tied to the Skywalkers. It can still be a Jedi
no.
story and not be tied to Skywalkers. I wish, you know, the film side of things realized that, but it looks like they're leaning towards, and I could be wrong, but judging from this just reveal trailer, and there was rumors that it's leaning towards more of like Ghost of Tsushima like styles of lightsaber combat while still incorporating the deflecting and whatnot. So that'll be interesting because you see him with his normal one-handed one, dual wielding, and then you see like the one with like the hilt, like a Kylo Ren style one. So
Mm.
maybe those rumors were true that you have two different lightsaber styles meant for different crowds, and then maybe they'd go away with the deflection combat from the first one. Who knows? But I'm interested. I'm interested. I'm very excited. Um, as long as they do, big polishes, it could be, what was for a lot of people like an 8 to 8.5 game, push it into that 9 or 9.5 tier.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested in trying and checking it out. I do need to play through the first one, which is something I'm probably looking at doing in February. It's just play through the whole thing
Right.
and get a feel for it before the new one comes out, and then um, check out the new one. Obviously, I don't want to overdo the Star Wars game experience and beforehand, but still,
Mm-hmm. All right.
yeah,
And to cap things off for games we're looking forward to, the big boy on May 12th. Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Now,
yeah.
don't want to echo too much of the discussion because we don't really know what the game is going to be like. This is all just based on conjecture and assumptions based on how Breath of the Wild played. Um,
Yeah, yeah. There's,
so
there's. I mean,
I
I know because you said you don't want to echo too much. I assume you're talking about the min max
yeah,
discussion
yeah,
where
exactly, yeah. Like I don't
it's
want
like
to echo
almost,
Chamber
almost, almost nothing is known
besides
beyond this
just
video.
what we can pull. So like right here, there's 7 jewels.
Which,
Maybe there's 7 main dungeons. We presume this is
like,
Zelda.
fingers crossed, because that was the biggest problem with the first one, I
Yeah.
think.
So my hopes is theoretically with Calamity Ganon gone, there should be more towns. That's one thing I want is there should be a sense that Hyrule is rebuilding, in my opinion.
Hmm.
That's kind of the vibe you get from the ending of Breath of the Wild, especially if you got all the memories. Was that Link and Zelda are going across Hyrule trying to rebuild post Calamity
Hmm.
Ganon. Two is more big dungeons. I don't mind the shrines. I actually liked them a lot as like mini dungeons, and I liked them as the means to increase your health and your stamina. I think cut down on the number of those and increase the number of main dungeons. Hate the Korok seeds. Replace that entirely. I don't care. I don't know how, but I do not want to collect Korok seeds for inventory and expansion. Fuck that. Um,
They could do something more like the. I mean, the thing is, the Korok seeds weren't that different from like the gold Skulltulas from or Skulltulas
no, but with
from.
how big the map was, I do think
Yeah.
it was just more of a chore. Like I had
Well,
no
yeah, and I think what
desire
is
to
it like?
even try to
I think there's
collect
like
them all.
900. I think there's like 930 of them or something.
No,
Which, like, the point is,
999 of them, Connor.
oh boy, which is like the thing is, I don't think there's any expectation that you're going to get all of them, and I actually think you don't need even a that significant a fraction to get like
To
most
be
of your
good, to be
upgrades.
decent, because and I think I like the variety of weapons. What I think I would prefer, and again, this is long shot. I would like if we had special weapons. So, you know, I have one spear, I have one sword, I have one blah blah, but I could either upgrade them or something rather than just finding like lots of different, soldiers' sword around the map. Like I, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I'd rather have a little bit more
yeah, and the
like
durability thing also was a little bit frustrating occasionally
I
because you
don't
would
mind
get
durability, but I'd rather it be it's ineffective, not broken. I think is how I prefer
sure with
durability.
maybe a certain cost to repair things or something like that because
Yeah, I
I think I think my frustration was finding a really good weapon
and
and then like
not
just
wanting to
not
use
getting
it.
well and or like not getting lucky again for a long time and then finally it breaks
Because I mean,
and
honestly, after getting the Master Sword, which doesn't take
sure,
that long
yeah,
if you kind of
you can get it pretty
explore,
quickly.
you can get it before you even
Yeah.
do any of the Divine Beasts, right? And
Yeah.
there's kind of an incentive to, because that hurts the divine beast even more. That makes those battles even easier. Um, After you get the master sword, yeah, it has a cooldown, but it's still effective, even if it's on its cooldown. So I think weapon durability can still be a thing if they want to. I'd rather just be a weapon is ineffective and you need to repair it than it breaks entirely. I That was one of my like hopes for improvement. But, you know,
Yeah,
it's
everything else though, the traversal uh mechanics, the it looks like they're adding even more verticality to it.
yeah. And I mean, I guess the
Um
story too. I feel like Breath of the Wild story was the most like I like the way they told the story there, and I hope it's more direct now that like I understand why Breath of the Wild story was a little bit more loosely told through the memories and whatnot. But now that Zelda's back, I do hope it is more direct, directly told than through memories or whatever the case is, because it makes sense in that original situation. Link woke up from 100 years of slumber. It makes sense to tell the story through memories that you have to find. But moving forward, like I think it should just be more explicitly like here's just what's happening. Um,
yeah. Yeah, and I don't I one thing that is worth noting, just and this is something that's in every conversation for this game and most big games that come out on the Switch anymore, is what is the performance going to be like? Um,
if it
and just like
performs just
because,
as well as Breath of the Wild, I'll be fine with it. Like
yeah, I think it'll be fine. It did struggle though. Now on the OLED, it might actually do better,
I think the
but it
innards
did
are the
struggle
same.
docked. Oh, maybe it did
Maybe.
struggle docked though.
Yeah.
In the original one.
Uh, that
So
that's an
and
entirely
the hardware is
different
holding back.
conversation. Yeah,
Yeah, the hardware is
absolutely.
holding back the world from being developed. One thing that could improve that, and I know it might lose some of the magic of the game a little bit, is have you load into towns or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that wouldn't work in every case, but like I don't know. It's just you could have the towns be more lively if you're
Mhm.
loading into them instead of it being a persistent world.
Yeah, and
The
that's
draw distance is kind of an issue at times. The
yeah.
how close things will pop in occasionally. So I don't know. I That is more of a thing of just like Nintendo's overall philosophy that like we're not going to change the way they do things. So whatever, kind of have to move on. But I kind of wish they would
Yeah, but
stop trying to be so unique and just like try to make an interesting console,
mm,
because their franchises would be really compelling. I think if they were able to make them more graphically interesting. Now,
mm,
I think that's obviously it's not the only problem. It's also just Game Freak not necessarily being as good. But the hardware on the Switch didn't do anything to help the recent Pokemon games.
no, yeah. And unfortunately, it's still sold like hotcakes, so they have like no incentive
Yeah,
to
yeah, and it will. It
bend
always
down.
will.
It always will. That's
Um,
the rough thing. Is Nintendo
it's going to
is
take
a
like
great company in terms of like their games are top tier for the most part, consistent, but they are still a company. So as long as they sell like hotcakes, they have no reason really to
well, yeah, and then
move
Pokemon is
forward.
obviously it's not their game, even though it only comes out on their
Mm.
consoles.
I
So
I do think I wouldn't want them to switch to a home only console. I don't know.
yeah, I have
I
mixed minds.
I
I definitely think that having the Switch, its versatility is nice,
mm,
and where that is like the emphasis of their development is nice.
yeah.
So
And my opinion is based on the fact that I have a Steam Deck is like I don't know. Maybe if they in their next console they could do two different SKUs. Maybe like there's a hybrid version and
yeah,
then just a on the shelf version. That would but then like that'd be no different than when they had like, their the DS line and then their home consoles. So I don't know.
yeah. I
I'm
don't
not
think that
sure. I'm of mixed minds as well. I'm not
ultimately. I
sure.
think that their current. model is probably better for them and what they're trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
and makes it easier to develop like a lot of the indie titles
Yeah.
um, without too much trouble. Because you could put like a really amazing indie title, huge RPG and like a pixel art style on there just fine.
Yeah.
It's just when you press the graphical abilities, it gets to be a little bit rough.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's our games of 2023 thus far. Obviously, as we get more into the year, we'll revisit this list or make a new list as we see more concrete dates show up. But
Yeah,
we're looking
yeah,
at the
I
first
think
half of the year. It looks like
yeah,
a
I
good
think like
first half, honestly.
yeah, I think like as long as the reviews are decent as they come out, Atomic Heart will probably be a game that I discuss in March.
Yeah,
I don't know when Resident Evil comes out, but I think it's going to be a game I
late
discuss in like
March, late
April
March
maybe.
as well.
So there's a decent run of like a good game or two coming out
Like,
each month through
mm-hmm.
May, basically. So
Yeah,
I mean, I honestly think we have our for the most part. Obviously, you might not be as like as engaged with Atomic Heart as I might be, depending on how it is when it comes out.
yeah,
But it looks like we kind of have a decent set of episodes for
mm-hmm.
each month for a while.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so February, I'm looking at probably replaying Star Wars so that we can discuss it, and then
yeah.
the next one, the new one will come out. So yeah,
Mm-hmm. All right. So that's the episode. We're back. We're hoping, and Connor, this is our New Year's resolution: at least monthly episodes. We're hoping. We know
yeah,
we've been bad and
that's the goal.
inconsistent, but that's
That's
still
the
going to
goal,
be our
and
goal. Video
monthly, and
recording. Good.
maybe occasionally we'll get 2 episodes out,
Yeah.
even if that means recording a short. This was a long episode today. We
Yeah.
didn't need to go this long, but if that means recording two shorter ones in a day, then great.
Yeah.
It's
And
actually something we need to start doing.
mhm. I do think our videos are typically more consistent, so we'll get more on that. We just started our Outer World series. As of this recording, one episode is done. We're probably gonna jump off and record the next section soon, and then we have some more series discussed down the pipeline potentially. And like I said, I want to try to do more um, one-offs of just trying out new games or things like that.
Yeah, I
Just
think that
to
could be really
expose
interesting too
us,
for
or not
smaller
expose us, but
smaller games.
yeah, exactly, like smaller weird games that may not be mainstream, just to see what these games are about. I have a lot of my Steam library that I'm just like, huh, I wonder what this is about, and I just never think to uh record while I'm playing. But yeah, thanks for listening,
Yeah,
and we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.
peace.